Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. September 29th, 2017.
The Kuhner Report, presented by Kelly Financial Services.
How stupid do they think we are? No, really, how stupid do these NFL players think we are? So listen now, my friends. This is exactly what happened last night. The Green Bay Packers played the Chicago Bears. It's usually a great rivalry, but let that go. So what the Packers did last night was the whole team, the coaches, everybody, led by Aaron Rodgers, their quarterback, that moonbat liberal, they stood and they locked arms. So, in other words, they did a non-protest protest. They didn't take a knee. They didn't, openly, outwardly show disrespect to the flag. They didn't kneel. They didn't sit on the bench. But they all decided to lock arms as a form of protest. In other words, they refused to put their hands over their heart. And so, for them, they think this issue is about kneeling. That if they just don't kneel, if they just don't sit on the bench, then somehow the fans are so stupid, you and I are so stupid, that we're just going to say, yeah, go ahead, disrespect the national anthem. It's just a question about kneeling. Come on, just stand. Come on, just stand. My friends, here is exactly what took place. According to the New York Times, there was a meeting earlier this week between all of the NFL owners. They brought each one player, I guess one of their team captains or whoever, and they met with NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. And they tried now to plan and craft a strategy to try to get them out of the box now that they're in, because they can see the immense blowback. They can see the fans are enraged. They can see the TV ratings are down. People are burning their jerseys. People are giving up their tickets. Stadiums now are becoming half empty. And so to try to placate the Black Lives Matter movement, and make no mistake about it, these protests are clearly inspired by Black Lives Matter and Colin Kaepernick. They said, well, we got to continue our protests, but let's see if we can pull a fast one over the dumb peasants. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to stand. You see, we're not kneeling, but we're going to lock arms. We're going to lock arms. So as we're locking arms, that signifies we're united, and we're continuing our protests against Trump, against racism in America, and against police brutality. And so during the game last night, a few of the fans locked arms in solidarity with the Green Bay Packers. However, the overwhelming number chanted USA, 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 and they put their hands over their hearts as they paid respect to the national anthem and to the flag. Now, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers players had written a long letter to their fans earlier in the week asking them to lock arms in solidarity with them. Well, last night they got their answer. The fans were not happy. Most of the fans, and by the way, the television cameras didn't want to show how many fans were there singing the national anthem, chanting USA, USA. They deliberately tried to focus on the handful of fans that were locking arms to give the impression that these multi-millionaire thugs as protests actually has serious fan support when it doesn't. Aaron Rodgers said this, that the reason why they were standing but locking arms, continuing their protest, in other words, was because they want to speak out on behalf of equality, unity, love, growing together as a society and starting a conversation around something that may be a little bit uncomfortable for people. Since when does this guy think it's his job to become now a social justice warrior? Since when? Look, I don't go to a football game, or I don't watch a football game for you ignoramuses. Many of you, frankly, completely uneducated. You couldn't write or express a proper, coherent sentence to lecture me or lecture the country about how we need more equality, how we need more unity, how the racism or alleged police brutality is the biggest problem that we face in America. You know what? I don't go to a football game to be lectured to and to be made, quote unquote, uncomfortable. I'm not interested in starting a conversation. I'm not interested in how we can grow as a country. I'm not interested in challenging me to be a better person morally, spiritually. If I want that, I go to my priest. I go to my pastor. I go to my rabbi. Okay? I don't go to you. What I go to you for, get this through your thick heads. Shut up and play. That's what I go to you for. Catch the ball, throw the ball, tackle the players. I'm not there to get a lecture from you on what you think is good for the country, bad for the country, or whether you should somehow make us all feel uncomfortable by having a discussion on race. Then you hear some of these other players, one of them is the tight end for the Tennessee Titans, who now has come out, Derek Walker. He's come out and said, look, we're going to continue our protests, and if the fans don't like it, leave. I mean, literally, that's what he said. You don't like it? Leave. Leave the stadium or just don't show up at the games. Because we're here to educate you about racism in America. Now, not only is this unbelievably hypocritical coming from these multi-millionaires, what do they know about, you guys care about equality? Cut a check. Not only is this incredibly insulting and arrogant, not only is this incredibly disrespectful to the anthem, to the flag, to the military, to the veterans, frankly, to all of the fans, but at its core, it's completely and utterly hollow. It is completely and utter nonsense. Nonsense. There is a brilliant piece by Heather McDonald. We've had her on the show before. She is a fellow at the Manhattan Institute. She's also an op-ed columnist. You can read her work in publications all across the country. And she has now written a devastating piece where she actually says that the entire Black Lives Matter narrative that these players are now rallying around is a complete and utter myth and lie. For example, there have been 7,881 homicides of blacks over the last couple of years. In 2016, there were an increase of 900 victims of blacks being murdered. The previous year, 2014 to 2015, another 900 victims were blacks. So year after year, you have 900 more African Americans being killed. And then the year after, another 900. It's getting to the point now that it's almost 8,000. The overwhelming majority, black on black homicide. Black on black homicide. The biggest problem facing young black males today has nothing to do with whites or Latinos or Asians or racism or, frankly, cops or white cops. It's literally black on black, blacks murdering fellow blacks. Young black males, to be specific, killing other young black males. And of those nearly 8,000 homicides in 2016, listen to this. These are official statistics. As Heather McDonald points out, the police fatally shot 233 African Americans. The overwhelming majority of that 233, even the Washington Post concedes, were armed and dangerous. In other words, they were armed and they were shooting at the police. So, that leaves 16 fatalities of cops on young black males, 16 that were technically considered unarmed. And even among those 16, even the Washington Post had to concede, because Heather McDonald's got the facts, they had either assaulted the police officer or they were resisting arrest. So what we're looking at is maybe at best, in a nation of 330 million people, maybe 4 or 5 questionable shootings. At best. Compared to almost 1,000 a year increase every year of black males slaughtering fellow black males. In fact, as Heather McDonald points out, listen to this, there is a much greater likelihood of young black men murdering police officers than there are of police officers murdering young black males. If anybody has to be worried, it's frankly the cops. As she points out in her piece, quote, there is an 18.5 times greater chance for a police officer in 2015, the latest statistics available, to be killed by a black male than an unarmed black male to be killed by a police officer. The whole thing is a massive lie. Starting from the first lie about Big Mike Brown, hands up, don't shoot, it never happened. Had he not bum-rushed the police officer and tried to beat him to a pulp and take his gun away, he never would have been shot. So what these guys are protesting is nothing. It's a complete myth. But it doesn't matter. This is about the resistance to Trump. This is about pushing the Black Lives Matter narrative. And so now listen to director Spike Lee on the Clinton News Network with Anderson Cooper, whereby the silver-haired guy, Anderson Cooper, asks Spike Lee, you think all of these players now locking arms, are they protesting Trump or are they protesting something even deeper than Trump? Listen to Spike Lee's response. Roll it, Brittany.
Do you think it's an anti-Trump sentiment that is making some players?
No, I think it's a combination of both things. And when he says, he was really telling others, like the owners or the plantation owners and the guys playing the league, you know, they're on the plantation. You can't say anything. And so the thing has really escalated. And then I get back to it. We talk about somebody's mother. That's a no-no. And he has not apologized. And also,
he's not going to apologize.
But did he talk about the mothers of the neo-Nazis, the alt-rights, the KKK, those guys, crazy people in Charleston?
He said there were some very fine people.
Oh, yeah, of course. Their mothers weren't SOBs.
You think he's speaking in harsher terms about these players? Of course.
And also, in my opinion, this guy has given all these groups the wink-wink, the green light, the come out of the darkness, come out and just show who you are. And that speech in Alabama, home of George Wallace, Sheriff Bull Connor, the bombing of the 6th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama. There's Alabama, I mean, come on.
There's history.
There's history in Alabama.
You're saying you can't take the president's comments out of the context of where he said them to the crowd that he said them.
I mean, he's playing to his strength. I know he's there for to support this guy, but it's in Alabama.
I mean, this is unbelievable. Number one, just for the record, I mean, Spike Anderson Cooper, I don't know if you guys can do a basic fact check. What did he call the white supremacists and the Nazis? He called them losers and scumbags. So, he's called them scumbags and losers. Oh, you want him to call them SOBs? I'm sure he's happy to call them SOBs. He'll insult their mothers as well. Don't worry about it. That's point number one. More importantly, so let me get this straight now. Listen to this. Now the NFL owners are plantation owners. Now these multi-millionaire felons, these multi-millionaire spoiled brat athletes with their fancy cars and their fancy jewelry, and many of them with their 3, 4, 5 homes and mansions, with their 10, 15, $20 million a year contracts. Now they're modern day slaves. So now, because they're asked to not disrespect the national anthem and the flag, to say, hey, come on, don't disrespect the fans, don't disrespect the veterans, don't spit on your own country, for God's sakes. That's slavery now. Now these guys are modern day slaves. I got to tell you, when this thing finally ends and the NFL crashes and burns, and now they're on their way to crashing and burning, this is going to be business 101 on how you implode and destroy a business. Because what they're doing now, they just went, even to me, even lower. They just dug themselves a deeper hole. And my question to you is this. Now the players are planning to stand, but lock arms. Will it work? Will you buy that as an excuse, or do you still see it as disrespecting our anthem, our flag, and our country? 617-266-6868. Your calls next. Mike in Millbury. Let's go to Mike first. Go ahead, Mike.
How you doing, Jeff? I'm a season ticket holder, and I expressed my First Amendment rights to boo the NFL, Bob Kraft, and the players last week, and I will continue to do so. Because what these people don't get is I am a customer. I don't let my plumber, my electrician, my accountant, or my football players lecture me on their politics or my politics when I pay them for a service. I am a customer. So here's what me and my friends are going to do, and I hope Bob Kraft is listening. We are not going to buy anything in your merchandise, your pro shop down there at Gillette Stadium. We are not going to frequent all of those Patriot Place stores down there. I'm not giving up my tickets. I paid for them, so I'm going to the games, but I am not going to go frequent your pro shop. I am not going to frequent the stores down there, and I am not going to buy NFL merchandise from Kohl's or Target or anywhere else. I'll buy college merchandise, and I'll support Boston College and Boston University and UMass and anywhere else, but NFL, Bob Kraft, you're not getting my dime, okay? That's what you're not getting from me. I am a customer, and I don't want to hear about your politics on my dime, my friend.
Mike, I couldn't have said it better myself. God bless you, my friend. David in Southie. Go ahead, David.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, David?
Good. Jeff, I met this veteran the other day. He's done 2 tours plus Vietnam. Okay, this poor guy now lost his hearing because I'd say probably for when he almost got blown up. He can't walk. He's paralyzed. And every time he sees these players kneeling down instead of standing up and holding their heart, he gets so mad he doesn't even want to talk to nobody about it. This guy was in tears the other day because he fought for this country and the disrespect and the flag the way it is. It's pathetic. They got no class, and like you said, they got all the money in the world. Let them go back to the ghetto and let them take the money away from them, all the money they got. It's totally pathetic.
David,
we were taught respect for the flag, and we were taught respect for America.
David, let me ask you, and I want to ask all of you this question. I think their strategy now, it's pretty obvious from yesterday's game in Green Bay and from the reports with the meeting with Goodell, that the players are not going to kneel, or most won't. They're just going to lock arms. In other words, they're going to stand when the anthem is played, but they're going to lock arms. So they're going to continue to protest, but they're not going to do it on their knee.
Yeah,
is that enough? Will that work? Or do you think that's just going to make the situation even worse?
It's going to make it worse. They got no respect for if they don't got no respect for the flag, like Trump said, they should all be fired. End of story. They should all be fired. 712 says so.
Thank you for that call, David. 617-266-6868. Okay, will you be watching the Patriots on Sunday? And if they lock arms, is that an acceptable compromise, or is it still disrespecting our flag and our anthem? And coming up next, now the Red Sox management, they're now telling the players, if you want to kneel during the national anthem, go ahead and kneel. That story, your calls next. Let's take it to Lori Grandy in the newsroom. 1237 here on the great WRKO, 617-266-6868. Will you watch the Pats game this Sunday? That is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Bill Kelly Financial Services. And we have a lot of listeners from around the country as well. So whatever your local team is, whatever your specific NFL team is, will you be watching them this Sunday? If the answer is yes, text the letter A to 680-680. If the answer is no, text the letter B to 680-680. As always, you can vote online at WRKO.com. Now, it's not just the NFL. Now they're doing the whole locking arms as a sign of protest. Major League Baseball and the Red Sox. So you've got the NFL. The NBA says they're going to start protesting the national anthem. But listen now to this. And I want to give a big hat tip to Glenn Ordway, Lou Merloni, Christian Fourier, OMF, on our sister station, WEEI. They had the Red Sox CEO, Sam Kennedy, on, and he was asked point blank, you know, Red Sox are going to playoffs. They're going to start playing baseball. When the anthem plays, are players going to be kneeling, and will they be allowed to kneel? Listen to this incredible answer. Roll it, Brittany.
All right, before we talk about baseball and about the upcoming playoffs, you saw what happened in the National Football League last week. And this past week, we had the first baseball player take a knee during the national anthem. Happened to be a rookie backup catcher for the Oakland A's. I'm sure you guys have talked about this. And there might be a lot of eyes across the country on Major League Baseball come next week. What is the Red Sox policy if a player wants to take a knee during the national anthem next week?
Well, John Farrell said this very well last Sunday. That he and we, the organization, will support our players with whatever they decide to do. That said, I think what's gotten completely and totally lost here in the NFL example is the message that I believe players are trying to send is really not about the military or the flag. There's other issues going on in our country, and we need to be mindful and respectful and understanding of that. So our players, we have their backs and support them with what they choose to do or not to do.
I mean, this to me is incredible. So what he said is, this is the CEO. This is Sam Kennedy of the Red Sox. If the players want to kneel, go ahead. We got your back. But guys, do whatever you want to freaking do on the field in terms of respecting the flag and the anthem. You want to stand, stand. You want to kneel, kneel. Go ahead. Do whatever you want to do. So the players are, so Trump is completely right. It's not the NFL owners. The owners in general, whether it be Major League Baseball, take the Red Sox, the NFL, the NBA, they're afraid of their own players. I said this to Brittany during the break. I said, hey, what the hell? No, really. You know, I'd love to work for an owner like that. Let's just do whatever we want. Let's burn the American flag. You want to take a dump on let's take a dump on the American flag. Hell, you know what? I believe in my right now to self-expression. I'm going to do my own porno.
Please don't.
No, what the hell? I'm going to just come in there. I'm going to do my own porno film.
Oh, God, please don't. Please don't. We don't want to see that, Kuhner.
I mean, what the hell now? I mean, according to their logic, my freedom of speech rights trumps everything else.
So, I mean, so you've got the Red Sox now jumping on the bandwagon. And I don't know if you caught that part. Brittany, play the part again where he says it's not about the anthem or the military. It's about other issues in society. And we got to be respectful of that. Play me that part, Brittany. Just that part. See, that's everything that's wrong with professional sports now.
I think what's gotten completely and totally lost here in the NFL example is the message that I believe players are trying to send is really not about the military or the flag. There's other issues going on in our country, and we need to be mindful. And
that's not your business. You see, look at the level of political correctness. Look how their brains are marinated in it. Look how they buy into the Black Lives Matter phony narrative that there's this epidemic of cops killing blacks. When I just pointed it out, if you really care about black lives, it is black on black crime. It is a slaughter. As Heather McDonald pointed it out, in 2014, 900 additional African Americans were killed. 2015, another 900 additional African Americans killed. In 2016, another 900 additional African Americans killed. The overwhelming majority, black on black, young black male on young black male. In fact, there's a greater risk of cops, almost 20 times higher, of being killed by a young black male than there is of a young black male being killed by a police officer. The whole thing is complete BS. So if you guys really care about so-called black lives, why don't you speak out on black violence? But the deeper point is this. Your job is baseball. Your job is how they can hit a ball and win a World Series. Your job is not to try to, quote, raise our consciousness about issues affecting the country. That's the media's job. That's the job of politicians. That's not your job. You're in the entertainment business. You're not in the politics business. And I'm telling you, they continue with this, baseball is going to start having fans turn on them in huge numbers, in droves. 617-266-6868. Dan in Woburn. Go ahead, Dan.
Jeff, I want to start out by saying in this solemn time, could we take a knee for Dr. Seuss? He's been under siege for the last 3 days. And, and considering the author really was a white liberal who hated Nixon and was a Democrat his whole life, I find it awfully funny. But I'm down on my knees right now, Jeff, for Dr. Seuss. Now, Jeff, the conversation gets uncomfortable every time. Do you notice? And it's not just in this issue, but look at Berkeley. When the other side wants to talk, they get shut down. And the same thing, I've said some of the statistics that woman has stated, and you're called a racist, when realistically, you look on the black on white crime, and it's absolute insanity. There's a website, narrative-collapse.com. We'll talk about all the crimes that are currently going on in America that aren't reported in the news, and some of them are so sickening and gross. I couldn't even say them on air. One of the crimes, they fed a white girl to an alligator after they had their way with her, and that website's very informative about what's going on. But the other thing is, every time you're in work, you got to go on these seminars, and they say it's always the evil white man. It's always the evil white man, and it's insulting having to sit through it when you bring up the real crime statistics. They don't want an honest conversation on race.
Dan, you nailed it. Look, that's what I mean. This is indoctrination. Look, you know what political correctness is? It's a euphemism for left-wing censorship. Political correctness is really left-wing indoctrination and left-wing censorship. That's what this is. So what the Red Sox are now saying, what the NFL is clearly saying, what the NBA is clearly saying, the only one left is the NHL. By the way, I'm going to get to them. There's an unbelievable story about the NHL. This is a mind bender, okay? But I'll get to that at 105. What they're saying is now, no, our job is not sports, and our job is not entertainment. That's not our job anymore. Our job is to link up, lock arms with Black Lives Matter, the Democratic Party, and the liberal elites. And we now have to shame and indoctrinate and propagandize the fans that come to our games. That's what this is all about. Well, if that's what you say it's about, then frankly, I'm done with you. And I know I speak for millions when I say this. Russ in Boston. Go ahead, Russ.
You know, Jeff, I don't know why I didn't think of this the other day, but you had mentioned the fact that one of the teams was in England and, you know, they kneeled when they played the national anthem, and then they went ahead and they stood up when they played God Save the Queen.
Yes.
Okay? Now, this is how stupid and ignorant these people are, okay? When the big slave trade and the slaves were brought in here, this was a British colony. It wasn't the United States of America, okay? The British are the ones that brought the slaves in here, okay? And they turn around and they're going to stand for God Save the Queen. That's how stupid they are. And let me put it to you this way. If these ignorant fools really wanted to do something, why don't they take 25% of their money, donate it to the United Negro College Fund, and take another 25% of your money and invest it in opening centers where you could have mentors for kids? That's how you could really do something, instead of running your mouth and showing the people that you're nothing but a bunch of ignorant fools.
Russ, you are so dead on. You know, there's a famous saying, better to be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. Well, you know what? Now these athletes have shown they have removed all doubt. They're a bunch of fools. Calvin in Revere. Go ahead, Calvin.
How you doing, Jeff?
Good. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure, Calvin.
You know, it comes down to accountability. In society today, people just aren't accountable for their actions. Same thing with the sports. It's getting to the point where I'm not going to go, I'm not going to watch, I'm not going to buy, because I totally lost faith in our system. And it has everything to do with the elections, and it's just so depressing sometimes.
Well, Calvin, I want to ask you, and I want to ask all of you this question. There was an immense backlash after Sunday, after Monday. Fans burning jerseys. The ratings are down 11%. I mean, the fans are letting, as loudly as they can possibly let them know, stop it, cut it out. And yet again, last night, the Packers were linking arms. And again, they're going to plan many of the teams to either take a knee or lock arms. In fact, Drew Brees came out, the quarterback of the Saints, says, no, we're going to kneel this Sunday. So what's driving these players? Are they that out of touch? Are they that arrogant? Or have they really bought into this whole Black Lives Matter propaganda?
Well, I think that they just think that they're above everything else. They're making the money. They're entertainers. That's all they are, is entertainers. And yet they think that their opinion matters because they have such a big audience that they play to. And they're just like our Hollywood elites. They keep dumping out the stuff, and they're against the Republican Party, and they have a platform, and they get everybody going. And all of this is a result of actions of entertainers.
So, Calvin, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what you're saying, if I hear you correctly, is they're just so consumed with arrogance and hubris and pride.
Yes, actually, yes. It's just it's I don't know.
No, you nailed it. Calvin, look, I think you nailed it. And you know that famous expression, it goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks. Pride cometh before the fall. It is the most, of all the deadly sins, pride is the deadliest of all. What you're seeing on display is the deadly sin of hubris, arrogance, and pride. 12:55 here on the great WRKO. You can text us, as always, 680-680. Lines are blazing. This is from 617. Jeff, Trump is right. The players run the NFL the same way students now run the schools. No discipline, cowards in charge, liberalism breeds snowflakes and cowards. This is another one. This is from another 617. Jeff, it doesn't bother me that President Trump used salty language to describe the players that took a knee and disrespected the flag. I see that as an emotional outburst from a patriot. But the person who lit the match that started the racial conflagration is Michelle Obama, when she made the comment, quote, "For the first time in my life, I'm proud of my country," unquote. She planted that seed, and it grew into a poison vine that has infected the entire nation. Racism is ugly. Thanks, Michelle. And Barry made it worse. Shameful. Amen, 617. John in New Hampshire. Go ahead, John.
The owner of the Red Sox shows me what he thinks of the fans. He thinks we're all stupid.
By allowing the players to take a knee if they want to take a knee? Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's insulting to, honestly, to the fans, to the flag, and frankly to baseball in general. Maria in Boston. Go ahead, Maria.
Well, hi, Jeff.
Hi, Maria.
If you could just give me a minute. This is on topic, but a little bit backwards.
Go ahead. You have the floor. Go.
I was listening to, this was years ago when Obama first got into office, and I just started listening to Mark Levin. There was a woman that called him, and I don't remember her name or what organization she was from, but she wanted to let him know that she was speaking to a woman that was connected to the White House. Somehow or another, she doesn't understand how, she got stuck on a third-party line. This woman was speaking to Obama, and she was being able to hear the conversation. The conversation was, now this is what she reported to Mark Levin, that Obama's plan was to marginalize average ordinary Americans and bring an uprising to minorities and immigrants. Now, jump ahead all these years, 5, 6 years, whatever it was. Look at what's happened.
Yes.
The rise of Black Lives Matter, the rise of the illegal immigrants that are now pushing against our government, the football, the basketball, it all ties in.
Maria,
we have them pushed out to the side.
Oh, look, you're completely right. Look, I think there's no question about it. Liberalism despises football. Liberalism it's the most American game that there is. That in baseball, okay? They're uniquely American games. And their goal has been to destroy football. And I got to give them credit. On this one, they've played it brilliantly. How better to destroy football? Because they're trying with the concussions and the brain damage and CTE, and it's just not really working. Alienate the fans from the game. Drive a wedge between the players and the fans. And that's what they've done. They've turned the players into social justice warriors. They've turned them essentially into the shock troops of Black Lives Matter. And so now, with the fans abandoning them in record numbers, football, or at least professional football, will wither on the vine and die. Say what you want about the left. They play hardball. 617-266-6868. Is the NHL next? That story, unbelievable.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 93.7 WEEI HD2 Lawrence, Boston. It's 1 o'clock.